Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Chelsea's selling spree is about to get going. What happened at the FIFA dinner before the Club World Cup final has just been revealed. Chelsea put a price tag on Raheem Sterling. Renato Veiga to Atletico Madrid are taking positive steps forward. Aston Villa may offer Morgan Rogers to Chelsea in a player swap deal. And Manchester United and Aston Villa are fighting for Nicolas Jackson's signature. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments.
And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k by the end of 2025.
Kicking things off, Fabrizio Romano has reported that Chelsea are now busy with some outgoings. They signed several players already, and now is the time to sell some. I think this is the best move that Chelsea could have done in this transfer window. We did our business extremely early, and we got all the key players, minus one or two, which we're still currently looking for. So yes, I feel like those deals are going to be chased, be active, and get secured. But the main emphasis right now is offloading this big list of players that we have for sale. So what I've done is I've gone on transfermarket.com, who have been very kind to create a big graphic of all of Chelsea's players that they're looking to sell, and we'll go over them. We'll go over all the players, what they're sort of valued at by transfer market, and what's really going on. So let's take a look at this list. Now, looking at this list, there is a total of 16 players so far, and I believe there may be a couple players missing from this. We'll go through this because we had some surprise sales in terms of Noni Madueke and Petrovic in terms of the fans' perspective, right? We didn't expect those sales. Maybe Petrovic was kind of on the fence. A lot of fans thought he was going to be sold anyway, and a lot of fans were hopeful that we would keep him. But it'd be very interesting to kind of see what transfer market are rating them at and what Chelsea are looking to get for these players, and kind of how they've ended up on this list, right? So when we start at the top, we've got Noni Madueke, obviously, who's been sold to Arsenal for 52.5 million, which is an absolute bargain. And in my opinion, it was like a bonus sale. We weren't really expecting it this summer, but it's happened, right? Now, they valued him at 40 million euros. Chelsea obviously got more than that. Now, again, we spoke about him yesterday. He's had his farewell message. All the best to him. Just don't do well against us, essentially. And then next on the list, you've got Christopher Nkunku, who I personally have question marks over. A lot of fans have question marks over. Some of you guys in the comment section are very split. Some of you want to sell him regardless. Some of you want to keep him because of his recent performances. And it seems like he's come back to life a little bit under Enzo Maresca in the latter parts of the season. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Nkunku's future, because I still think there is a place for him in this Chelsea 11. Going into next season with all the games and the rotation, if he continues to play it the way that he has been playing recently. But we know that Bayern Munich have been sniffing around since January. They were sniffing around. Chelsea outpriced the move in January because of the January tax or whatever they wanted to frame it as. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this summer regarding Nkunku. Next on the list is Malo Gusto. Now, Malo Gusto, I would not want to sell. I wouldn't want to sell him. And again, he's a player that I've vented my frustrations at during the season because, let's be honest, up until the final of the Club World Cup, Gusto's been awful under Enzo Maresca because he's not been able to adapt to a Maresca system. But when he has played as an out-and-out right-back, bombing up and down like he is good at, he showcased how insanely good he is. And under Pochettino, he was amazing. His first season in the Prem as a right-back, he got 8 assists. That's really, really good, especially for a player of his age. I'm hoping that we keep hold of Gusto if Maresca is going to utilise him in the right way next season. I personally wouldn't offload him. Again, I have vented my frustrations at Gusto throughout the season because he's been really poor, but he's a fantastic player when he's utilised in the right way. So very curious to know what happens there with Malo Gusto. Next on the list is Trevor Chalobah. Now it looks like, they've valued him at 25 million euros. Chelsea have actually come out and said, we're not actively shopping him around. We're not actively trying to sell him, but we will listen to offers. And I think that's more than fair from the club. They've made a U-turn on their position on Trevor Chalobah, and I'm so grateful for that. And I know you guys, a lot of you guys in the comments have been telling me how grateful you are that he's, it looks like he's staying. He's an integral part of this football club, and he's an integral part of this squad. He bleeds blue. He's one of us. And I'm glad that the club have finally realised that, especially in the way that they treated him. It looks like they're doing a complete U-turn and giving him all of the props and sort of respect he deserves, right? But if Chelsea are listening to offers, like they said they were going to with Petrovic, they said they were going to with Madueke, they said they're going to with Nicolas Jackson, I don't feel like Trevor Chalobah will be sold. But I think there's nothing wrong with the club listening to offers. I think that's just the thing to do, because you can always say no. I just don't think that they're going to say yes to any offers, because I don't see anyone coming in saying we'll give you 60 million for Trevor Chalobah. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't see that happening. So I feel like he's pretty safe at Chelsea right now with the way things stand in terms of internally and from the market perspective. Next on the list is Wesley Fofana, which is very interesting to me. We know that he's got a lot of reoccurring injuries. He's currently getting over a long-term injury. Transfer market valued him at 25 million euros. Now, I know that these guys kind of do the market value on like recent runs of form and stuff. So I know it can be quite hit and miss, but sometimes pretty accurate. But they've done it for 25 million for a 24-year-old. I don't see Chelsea selling Fofana. We bought him for big, big money. And he's a very integral player to Enzo Maresca's system when he is fit. And I feel like we have to give him time to get over these injuries, and hopefully he can stay fit for longer. Because if you remember back to the start of last season, Levi Colwill and Fofana, week by week, were getting better and better and better as a partnership, and it looked so solid going into just before Fofana got his injury. So I don't see Fofana being for sale at all, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to the next on the list, we've got Renato Veiga. We're going to speak about him later on in this video, but he's got a lot of interest. You've got Bayern Munich, you've got Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, and a lot of Premier League clubs that are interested in Renato Veiga. They have valued him on transfer market as 25 million euros, but Chelsea want a lot more for that, and I feel like they will get it. But we'll speak about him later on in the video, so make sure you keep watching. Next on the list is Robert Sanchez. I personally feel like Chelsea are not going to sell Robert Sanchez. This could be another case of we will listen to offers. If someone comes in with silly money, then yeah, I think they'll take it. But the way we are currently going is Robert Sanchez and Jorgensen are going into the season as 1 and 2, you know, within the next essentially a few weeks, right? Me personally as a fan, I know Sanchez has improved. And again, I've voiced my frustrations a lot last season because of how abysmal he was, but I've also given him his flowers because he has been improving for months and months now, and he's becoming a very solid goalkeeper. However, the frustrations or the worries from a fan perspective isn't the fact that it's Robert Sanchez, because again, time will tell whether he's going to be Chelsea's number 1 or not long term, right? And we can't really decide that. We can only vent our frustrations. The worries come from the fact we only have 2 goalkeepers going into next season. Every team, most teams, if not all of the teams, have 3 goalkeepers going into the season. You have a first choice, second choice, and a reserve keeper that can kind of fight out for number 2 and always be there in case he's needed. And we don't have that. So will Chelsea go into the market and get another goalkeeper, whether it is to come in as number 1 or as to be at number 3? I don't know, because we've loaned out Penders. We've sold Petrovic. There's no talk on Selena. So Bettinelli was sold. So we've just got Sanchez and Jorgensen, which does concern me a little bit. Because if anything happens to either of those, we are very, very thin in that department. So I don't think that Chelsea will be selling him this summer unless it's for a ridiculous fee. Next on the list, we've got João Felix. Then we know that he wants to go to Benfica. Benfica want him. Transfer market have valued him at 20 million euros. I feel like Chelsea will want a bit more, but because it's Benfica, they may be willing to work out a deal. Be very interesting to see what that initial fee is going to be. But Felix has turned down the likes of Flamenco and turned down the likes of Porto, so he's very eager on that move to Benfica. And then just below him, you've got Jordi Petrovic. They valued him at 20 million euros. We actually got 25 million pounds for him. Well, not confirmed, but that was a gentleman's agreement to allow him to leave. He's now gone to Bournemouth, unfortunately. Now, for a lot of Chelsea fans, we wanted him to stay. We wanted to be given a chance. It obviously wasn't meant to be, and they parted ways mutually. So all the best of luck to Petrovic. I think he's gonna really help Bournemouth next season. Next on the list, we've got Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, which did surprise me. I personally don't think that Chelsea would offload KDH, if I'm being honest, because I feel like every squad needs a player like KDH. He goes under the radar a lot. I really rate what he does. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's very vital to come on and do the job. He just comes on and does a job, and that's it. No qualms, very professional, puts his head down. That's what he does. And I don't know, they're rating him at 20 million euros. It'd be interesting to see if he's kept or sold. I personally think that Chelsea will keep him because Maresca will utilise him in the right way across the season for sure. Then you've got Leslie Ugachukwu, Ben Chilwell, Armando Broja, Raheem Sterling, and Datro Fofana. These are all players that are surplus to requirements. 18 million, 15 million, 12 million, 10 million, 6 million. Datro Fofana is a shame, if I'm being honest, because I feel like he's been riddled with injuries. He went on his loan move. He got injured as well. We've seen him play for Chelsea more like once. He played very, very well. Very raw, but very positive. But you know, I could see Chelsea offloading him. Sterling, we're going to speak about him later on in the video. He's definitely going to be tried to be offloaded this summer for sure. The only issue with me is he's 2 years on his contract and he's big wages. Broja wants an amicable split from Chelsea. So, you know, that kind of makes sense in a way that, you know, we want to try and offload him. 12 million euros. I feel like Chelsea could get a little bit more than that for sure. I think we could probably get about 15 million pounds for him. And Chilwell, again, you know, a lot of you guys have said in the comments that we have cover at left back for Cucurella. It is Ben Chilwell, but he is not part of Enzo Maresca's plans. He's on big wages. He's made that very clear. He's been frozen out from the squad, and Chelsea want to get rid of him. And Leslie Ugachukwu is just, I've spoken about him many times on the channel. Right place at the wrong time, I feel, for him. So I feel like Chelsea are going to offload him and try and get as much money as possible. So it'll be very interesting. That's the list. The only player that isn't on that list, who we are going to speak about later on in this video, is Nicolas Jackson. So it's very interesting because we're not actively looking to sell Jackson, but again, we're willing to listen to offers. It'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. Now, I'm very curious to know your thoughts about this list of players. Is there anyone that's missing from this list? Do you feel like the valuations at transfermarket.com are fair? And I want you guys to let me know in the comments who you think is going to be sold from this list and who will actually stay for Chelsea to play next season. The Times have reported that at a FIFA dinner, the Chelsea delegation noted how preoccupied the representatives of PSG were with how and where they would collect the Club World Cup trophy. Chelsea's rep informed Enzo Maresca of this and he passed it on to the players. Now, I love things like this because, look, we know what the social media was saying, we know what fans were saying, we know what the media in general was saying about Chelsea versus PSG in the Club World Cup final. We are world champions, scream it loud and proud for the next 4 years. And we absolutely decimated PSG in the final. It was unbelievable what we went to do. And obviously we were the underdogs. When we're the underdogs, we get the result. It just seems to always happen. But if the players knew this before going into the game, no wonder they were so fired up. Because it's bits like this that add up and add fuel to the fire for these players. Maresca being able to say, look, PSG reps, they're talking already about what they're going to do with the trophy, how they're going to pick it up, what they're going to do with the prize money. They've wrote us off before a ball's even kicked. How disrespectful that is for your opponent. I've always said you can only play who's in front of you and you have to respect your opposition because otherwise upsets happen. It's a prime example. Maresca outfoxed Luis Enrique. The players outplayed PSG across the pitch for the full 90. Absolutely destroyed them. And I find this so... It's interesting, but it's also so arrogant, right? Now, I get it. They were massive favourites going into the final, and the whole world were like, yeah, PSG are going to wipe the floor with Chelsea. And I understand that. Recent form, they are the best team in the world, or were the best team in the world up until that point. Technically, Chelsea are right now, so loud and proud, like I said. But I just find this very interesting. That the Chelsea delegation were just kind of like, just make a little note. We're going to tell the boss that. We're going to see what he does with this information. Because he quite easily, Enzo Maresca could have not mentioned it at all. The fact he's gone on to pass it on to the players, he'd be like, yo, you never guess what, boys. We're up for this, but we've got a bit more fuel to add to the fire. So it'd be very interesting to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding this. Do you feel like this helped the boys kind of get on that pitch and have a bit more fuel to the fire and that bit between their teeth and really want to... I mean, they're not really going to care too much about the delegation and the preoccupied representatives, but I feel like that on top of the whole world saying that we weren't going to win it, and the way that the players were like, we're going to surprise everyone. Like, you lot write us off, we're going to surprise everyone. I think it all just adds together for Chelsea to have that incredible result, beating PSG 3-0. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on this down below in the comments. The Sun on Sunday have reported that Chelsea hope to sell Raheem Sterling for around £20 million, recouping some of the £47.5 million that they paid Manchester City 3 years ago. Now, I know this is paper talk, and a lot of you get really offended by it, and I understand. I just react to headlines. I'm not saying this is gospel, but we do know Raheem Sterling is up for sale. We do know that Chelsea are going to want some money for Raheem Sterling. He was on that list that we spoke about earlier on in the video, and about £20 million I think is a fair price for Raheem Sterling. The question is, will we get it? That's going to be the hard thing. He's got, 2 years left on his contract, I believe. I think he has an option to extend a further year, but that doesn't really count in negotiations, I believe. Could be wrong, let me know in the comments. But I feel he's got about 2 years left on his contract, and he's on over 300 grand a week. That is going to be incredibly tough to move on unless the player's willing to drop his wages, which hopefully he is, because he wants to, as a professional, he'll want to play football, right? That loan spell at Arsenal did not go to plan. The whole I'm yet to show my best really was egg on his face, let's be honest. And obviously £20 million, I think is a fair fee for Raheem Sterling. He's still a good player. He hasn't been great in the Chelsea shirt, but he's still a good player. He can still do things for squads, 100%. I just don't think, he came to Chelsea for that last big paycheck, and fair play to him. The game's the game. We paid it for him. He obviously had a very turbulent time at Chelsea. Some really rated him, some really didn't. I was on the fence. He was very infuriating to me to watch, but he obviously saved us a few times throughout the season as well. So, respect for him. But at the same time, he didn't live up to his price tag. I feel like Saudi could come save us here. Saudi could hopefully come save us and pay more than £20 million for Raheem Sterling. He is still got a massive brand. He is still Raheem Sterling, right? So in that sense, it would help the Saudi League. If he stays in the Premier League, I'll be very surprised. But, I don't think it's impossible. A club to kind of see that he's going around for £20 million. Obviously, if these reports are true, this is obviously just from the newspapers that we're reacting to. I feel like there's probably an element of truth to it, though. Recently, I found a lot of the reports and the papers to be very, very close. So that's just an observation. They're not always. Sometimes they're wildly inaccurate, and we know this. I think 20 million's reasonable to go, but I don't know whether he'll be a Premier League move or if he'll be going Saudi. So it'll be very interesting to know your thoughts. I think a Saudi move would be best for all parties, because we'll get the money that we want, he'll get the wages he wants, and he'll get to play football regularly for the remainder of his career. one last big sort of paycheck. I don't know. He could get a Premier League move for sure, but I think the contract side of it, if he's not willing to drop his price or his wages too much, could be the stumbling block, and he could essentially, turn down all negotiations and stay at Chelsea for the next 2 years and just pick up a paycheck and not even play. And that's the worst case scenario, and I really hope that doesn't happen. Doesn't seem like the type of player to do that, but at the same time, he also seems like the sort of player who knows what he wants, and he won't negotiate on what he feels he's worth. So it'd be very interesting to know your thoughts down below. Do you think Chelsea can get £20 million for Raheem Sterling? Do you think the contract talks may be the hurdle for him? Or do you think he's going to go to Saudi and all the problems will be solved for all parties? Fabrizio Romano has reported that Renato Veiga is still expected to leave Chelsea this summer with a permanent move anticipated, and the race is open. The interesting clubs are Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich and Premier League clubs. Chelsea want a package of over £35 million for Veiga, and talks continue. Now, we spoke about this yesterday, that 30 to 35 million euros is now actually being £35 million. It's come from Fabrizio, and we know the clubs that are interested. We spoke about Bayern being interested and Atletico as well, but there has been more reports. Fabrizio goes on to report that Atletico Madrid have now made contact with Renato Veiga's camp, and the player is keen on the move. Chelsea insist on package worth at least €40 million to sell Veiga, while Atleti are prepared to advance in negotiations. This looks like it's going to move very quickly, and it could be another target this summer that Bayern Munich miss out on. There's been a few, and it's kind of gone under the radar. Bayern Munich have missed out on quite a few targets this summer. They're interested in Kunku. They could still potentially go do that and chase that down. They were interested in Veiga for a long time. They've kind of been sniffing around a lot of players in Europe, and they haven't got the targets that they've wanted. Other clubs have come in and just done their deal, done their business very, very quickly, and Atletico seem to be on that. I think Veiga would be a perfect signing for Diego Simeone. What a player. What a Simeone-style player. And if Atletico are willing to go to negotiations and Chelsea want at least €40 million, look, we know that Atletico have got the money. This could be a repayment of last year when we bought Felix off them for around 42 or 45 million pounds. This could be Atletico's way of saying, look, you scratched our back last summer, we'll scratch your back this summer, and we'll take Veiga off you, we'll give you the money that you want. Let's shake hands and walk away. This could be that payback. It could be the return of the favour. And also, I think this is a very good deal for Atletico Madrid if they can, Chelsea bought Veiga for what, £16 million? To flog him on for around €40 million, I don't know what that conversion is. It is about £35 million, right? It's more than double, or just over double what we paid for him. So Chelsea are going to be happy. Veiga wants the move. I think he'd be incredible for Diego Simeone's side. And Atletico get their man. We know they've got the money. So this could be a really good deal for all parties, and I feel like this deal could be ramped up in the next few days and over the line very, very shortly. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Renato Veiga. Do you want Chelsea to keep him? Do you feel like Atletico would be a good move for him? €40 million, is that a decent price in your opinion for Renato Veiga? I think that's an absolute bargain for Atletico. You know what I mean? Like, they can come in at €40 million, we get our money, we get our profit. Veiga gets the team he wants to play in. I think he'll thrive in that league. We've got to snap their arms off €40 million, if I'm being honest. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. TBR Football have reported that Chelsea are preparing to offer Aston Villa a player exchange for Morgan Rogers. Tosin, Trevor Chalobah, Benoit Badiashile could all be included, with Aston Villa also interested in Andre Santos and Nicolas Jackson. Now, again, we are reacting to their headlines on how reliable the source is, because we went over that list of players for sale this summer by Transfer Market, who, again, we can argue the toss over that. I don't see us selling Tosin. I don't see us selling Chalobah. Benoit Badiashile could be potential, but Badiashile has come out and said that he will be at Chelsea next year, and Maresca has said he is part of the plan, so I don't see that happening. And Aston Villa are also interested in Andre Santos. You can keep your hands off. It's not happening. You're not having Andre Santos. All right? Incredible player who's going to be playing for Chelsea next season. Chelsea have batted away 60 million offers from Bayern Munich, and Real Madrid are interested. We've just been saying, no, he's staying. He's an integral part of this squad for next season. But the last name on that list is very interesting. It's Nicolas Jackson. There could be a world where Chelsea and Aston Villa do this player exchange. I think there'll still be money involved for Morgan Rogers and Nicolas Jackson. Would I be happy with that? No, 100% I would. I would take that all day long. Chelsea have been very open about Nicolas Jackson, saying he's not untouchable. They're willing to listen to offers. They said he's a £100 million striker. They're willing to take 60. Clubs are like, no, thank you. Man United are like, oh, we're interested. Can we have a conversation? We'll speak about that in just a second. Aston Villa are like, 60 mil's a bit much. You want Morgan Rogers though? We want 80 for him. So I feel like there could be a player swap on the horizon. Now, again, this kind of ties into what was said in yesterday's video about UEFA issuing this weird warning to Chelsea and Villa saying, look, we're keeping an eye on you. We're going to be scrutinising every player transfer you do because you're inflating prices to help PSR, which I think is absolutely ludicrous, by the way. Who are UEFA to say that? You know, if anything, they need to tighten their rules up rather than coming out with this stuff, because they're happy for clubs to pay 200 million for, you know, players to go to Saudi or play these ridiculous wages. And, you know, the whole Crystal Palace thing that's gone on with UEFA is an absolute joke, if I'm being honest. So, like, there's so much wrong with UEFA. So for them to come at us and say, oh, well, this player is actually worth this much and this player is not worth that much, who are they to say? I think it's ridiculous. But I feel like this kind of plays into that, to kind of link it up and see how things go, because it's very rare you see player swaps in this day and age. I still think this would be two separate deals. It would be Chelsea pay X amount for one player and then Aston Villa pay X amount for the other, but they're done basically back to back, so it looks like a swap. That's what I can see happening. But I thought that the list of players involved are very interesting, because I don't see us getting rid of Tosin, one of our most consistent centre-backs last season. Chalobah's been fantastic, and like it or not, Benoit Badiashile has improved massively, and when he's come on to do a job, he's done it to a very high standard. Andre Santos is definitely a no-go, and Jackson, well, you want him, you can have him. He's got to that stage where Nicolas Jackson's the writing's on the wall. His future has already been told for him, where, you know, it looks like Chelsea, he's going to be leaving Chelsea this summer for either one or two clubs, Villa or United, and it's just interesting to me to see where he ends up, because he could stay at Chelsea. The difference is with this window, and, you know, as a fan looking at Chelsea's squad, is we have 2 or 3 players for each position, and the players that we are looking to offload are not as good as the players that are starting. And even when you look at the number 9 role, we've got Delap and João Pedro. So if we get rid of Jackson, I'm not worried. We may go into the market and get another striker because we'll be running a bit thin, you know, having João Pedro being available as a 10, as a left winger, etc., as well as a 9. And then you've got Delap as kind of like that out-and-out 9. We may want to go in and get someone else. All right, it was reported a few days ago it might be Benjamin Sesko, and I'm hoping we don't go spend £90 million on him. I think that's a massive waste of money to be a rotation striker unless you're going to buy him with the intent of being the main number 9. That's just my opinion, but I'd love to know your thoughts down below. But if we get rid of Jackson, I'm not that fussed. You know, he's had 2 seasons. We've all spoke about Jackson. We all have our own different opinions on him, right? So I wouldn't be too sad if we sold him. If we get Morgan Rogers, I'll be over the moon. What a player. Obviously, we're linked with Xavi Simons as well. So we could go a different route. We were linked with Eze, whether or not that materialises. I personally don't think it will. As much as it's exciting, I don't think it will, because he's too old for the project. He's 27, which, you know, is a couple of years above what these owners have been kind of circling around for the past few years. So Chelsea have definitely got options, but we are long-term admirers of Morgan Rogers, and he is Prem proven, and he knows Parma, and he's got the Man City Academy experience, and he's a Joe Shield signing, right? That's the best way to sum it up. If Chelsea could get away with doing this would be incredible, but it'd be very interesting to see. I think it'd be Nicolas Jackson that's added into this player exchange, and I still think there'd probably be a bit of money that goes one way, and I feel it would be Chelsea paying that money as well. Because I feel like if Villa are sort of weighing up Morgan Rogers for £80 million, because again, PSR, and, you know, they don't want to sell him, so it's a deterrent price, then yeah, fair enough. Game's the game. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. 1, do you see that a player exchange happening in today's market? And 2, out of that list of players on there of Tosin, Trevor, you know, Benoit, Andre Santos and Jackson, who do you feel like it would be? Would it be one player? Would it be a myriad of players? Or do you think it will be a player plus cash to get this deal done? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Nizar Kinsella has reported that Manchester United have held talks with Nicolas Jackson's representative Ali Barat over a potential move. Worth noting, Chelsea have interest in Garnacho. I don't want to talk about Garnacho anymore, I'm going to be honest. We all know how I feel about it. You guys have let me know very, very clear in the comments how you feel about Garnacho. We do not want him at Chelsea, but there's been some more reports. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Chelsea have informed Manchester United on conditions of deal for Nicolas Jackson. Manchester United are still discussing their striker target internally, and sales will be important. Chelsea are not desperate to sell the striker. And this is where I feel like Chelsea are in a very powerful position, because we don't have to sell Jackson. He can still stay. He's got a lot of potential, a very high ceiling, and he can still develop. But he's also worth a lot of money in terms of, you know, international player, played in Premier League experience, a very short supply of number 9s world football right now, that we can kind of demand our price. United are very interested in him. Now, United were also interested in Delap that they lost out on. Gyökeres, which I think I've seen some recent reports just before I recorded this video, that apparently they're ahead of the race over Arsenal now, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. They were also in for Sesko. Sesko's apparently interested in going to United. Ekitike, sorry, I can never pronounce it right. He's now going to Liverpool. There is a pathway for Jackson to go to United, and United are known for spending a lot of money on players. So I think Chelsea could capitalise. As long as we don't get Garnacho, I am happy. because I just don't want Garnacho at our club. If it happens, it happens. I'll back a player as long as he's wearing a Chelsea shirt till he gives me a reason not to. But I just don't see a world where Garnacho comes in and improves the squad. And again, happily to be proved wrong. I don't like talking about him too much because I made it very, very clear. But Jackson to Manchester United could be well on the cards. Jackson to Aston Villa could also be on the cards. So it'd be very interesting to see which team Jackson ends up with. Does he stay at Chelsea? Does he go to United? Or does he go to Villa? Because if Chelsea have the pick of saying, right, we can keep you because you can develop and the data suggests so, and we've seen you with our eyes. Yes, you're frustrating and your finishing needs to improve, and your discipline needs to massively improve, but you can improve. Or we go to United and go, we can get £60 million for that. Whether that's installments, upfront, guaranteed, whatever, £60 million. Or they go to Villa, well, we can give them Jackson, get Morgan Rogers, and send them a little bit of money. Is that the viable option? One in, one out system. Be very interesting to see how this plays out from the Chelsea perspective, because like I said earlier, with our squad, it's not like we need to sell, and the players that are surplus to requirements are not first teamers, because we've brought in very key players in key areas that are going to be first teamers. So it's a very interesting position and a very interesting story where it comes to Jackson. Will he go to Villa, United, or stay at Chelsea? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. I love having a conversation with you guys. And that's all of that is Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you haven't watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.